What up, though? Welcome to another episode of 17 Winners with your brother Mike X. This episode is personal. I always say that it's like a special episode because, as I say, these episodes are personal because they are people that I walk the yard with. Usually, they are people that I have built relationships with that go beyond just having a conversation in front of a camera. So this one is no different than that in that my guest today, we met over 20 years ago, walking the yard at MTU. Since then, or I would say back then, neither of us knew exactly who we were yet. They called him White Boy Nate. They called me O-Dog from Lansing. But since then, White Boy Nate has returned back to his home community of Muskegon as Nate Johnson, a reformed man, a man who is leading the charge of reentry, and I would say leading the charge of just showing formerly incarcerated leadership across the state of Michigan and across the country. That said, I want y'all today to welcome my guy, my brother, Nate Johnson. I hope that was a good enough bio,
that was
bro.
Good, man. Yeah, I'll give you a 10 on that, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That being said, man, I also want to give you the space to kind of talk about some of the things you've been doing because
man,
when I did like outside of our personal relationship research, I was like, damn, I ain't even realize how much bro has been like not just instrumental in what's going on in Muskegon, but like statewide, there have been some major moves that come from just your desire to be your best self, I believe.
Right.
So talk a little bit about where you come from, how you got to this point in your life, and like what you've been doing since you've been home.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me here on the show. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, Nate Johnson. I'm here in Muskegon, Michigan. Some people call it the west side of the state. We call it the Fresh Coast because we're right on Lake Michigan.
Okay.
Fresh water.
Okay.
And we here and we do reentry, and we want to see everyone succeed when they come home. And part of my own personal mission and what I've really pushed into the culture of everything that we're doing here is we want to stay bent as solutionaries. Mm-hmm. We want to identify problems, barriers, and challenges that individuals may face, and then solve them, right? So we've put into our culture and our mindset is how can we destroy every barrier and challenge that someone coming home faces, because our ultimate goal is we want to make sure that no one has an excuse for why they go back. Now, some people are like, man, that's too lofty. Well, you know what? The sky's the limit. I don't believe that. People landed on the moon. So I'm going past the sky. We land on the moon, and we're just creating, we want to live in a place where we may never solve that whole deal. But while we're here, we're going to give it our best shot, and we're going to do it because it keeps our creative juices going, right? So there is no ceiling really for us.
Yeah, just keep the ball rolling.
And we want to do it. We do everything from, and part of our philosophy is creativity over capital. So we do everything from basketball games between law enforcement and formerly incarcerated people. We do school assemblies called The Power of a Choice. So individuals go back in and we talk to the youngsters about how powerful their decision making is,
yes,
right?
Sir.
We go back to our experience being in the penitentiary. One choice changed the whole trajectory of our lives. But when we go back and we look at those one choice, that one choice that ultimately led me going to prison, wow, look at it, took like maybe 30 seconds to make. You know what I mean? But that one choice, that little 30-second deal, changed the whole trajectory. We do Guns Down, Gloves Up, which is a new initiative we talked about.
It's dope. We've been talking about it a lot.
How do we become violence interrupters and kind of changing the game up? Because I believe that if we're going to change the landscape and really eliminate every excuse for why someone would come back, it has to be led by creativity. Many times we have individuals who may be leading in this space, but they and not anything against him. I always want to push it towards they probably just don't know, but you have to speak in line with the understanding of your audience.
Yes, sir.
And many times we may be speaking truth, but it's not speaking in line with their understanding. It's hard to understand what you're talking about. So we do, and the team here just I said, man, listen, you got to stay creative, and if you've seen something that doesn't work, we're not going to repeat it again.
Right. That makes sense.
So that means you need to go back to the drawing board, get creative with your team, and figure out how you're going to solve this problem. So we're just looking for problem solvers, right? So that's the initial kind of give you a description of how we move over here, and then I came home from prison in May 2013. I did 12 and a half years inside. I was originally sentenced to 17 after 50. I had an armed robbery, dope case, and 3 years into it, 2.5 years into it, I got my time ran concurrent because I had a consecutive sentence with the dope case and then the Class A violent felony. Had the automatic consecutive sentencing clause attached to the dope case, so got it. Brought my minimum from 17 and a half down to 12 and a half. For me, I'd given my life to God while I was inside, and I chose to spend the next 10 plus years inside, renewing my mind and changing the way that I thought as it affected my behaviors and everything to the point. So I never wanted to come back.
All right, hold on.
I'm done.
Hold on, bro.
You know what I mean?
I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because you are getting too far into my conversation, first of all. But more importantly than that, so this is another reason why I love doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Because it allows me to reconnect with old friends, old partners, but get to experience your bit.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do your bit with you.
Right.
I met White Boy Nate. We was at MTU. You was doing 17 years. I was doing 16 to 40.
Right.
And it was essentially for the same case. You had a dope case attached to yours.
Oh, yeah.
But I had armed robbery. You had armed robbery. It was like, so me and you had like kindred spirits in the sense that we were really connected on those levels.
Right.
And when we talked about Muskegon and walked around and on the yard and stuff. So to hear that was how, because when I saw you were out and I saw you were doing the Fresh Coast thing, I didn't know what the hell none of that was.
Right.
I didn't know like how long you had been home.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of the history of like what it took for you to even get to be that person.
Yeah.
The leadership, that wasn't surprising.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were a leader
Yeah.
even when we were in our folly, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the trajectory was different.
Yeah.
So I want to go back a little bit because I want to talk a little bit of history.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I have to acknowledge that it is great to be back in Muskegon. I don't think I have been in Muskegon since 2022.
Okay, a few years, 4 years.
My grandfather passed the summer of 22. And that was the last time I was here.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of history in Muskegon. First and foremost, a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually born in Muskegon at Hackley Hospital right downtown.
Yeah.
I'm from the Heights. My mom and them family from the Heights. And we were actually recently just talking about this, that my family came up from, I believe it was Mississippi, during the Great Migration of the black families moving from down south up to Michigan. Yeah. And it was originally 12 of us that came up. And all of my family branched out from that 12, but we came to Muskegon. So where we laid our hands at was in Muskegon, and we spread out from there. So I was born here. I didn't actually live here. We moved immediately back to Lansing when my mama grew up. But I'm from here, originally born here, and I grew up here back and forth when we moved back here to Michigan from Dallas, Texas. Okay. When we moved back, my mom was determined to make sure that I understood where she was from, her community, and we were back here every weekend in her car, staying the weekend in Muskegon just to hang out with my family. So I even actually caught my first case, my first criminal case in Muskegon in the projects at Martin Luther King Elementary
King
School.
Behind the projects.
In the projects. So that's a little bit of my personal history when it comes to Muskegon. But then when I think about the history between the two of us, like I said, walking that yard, I did not see this being the person that you would be. So walk my audience back a little bit. First and foremost, one of the things that I do on the podcast is I ask if you remember your prison number.
Oh, absolutely.
What's your number?
377-770.
And it's funny because every time I ask it, I know you know it.
Right.
There's no question in my mind.
Yeah, it's
that
branded
you
in
know
the
it.
brain.
Exactly. I think I may have had one person that said they didn't remember it.
Oh, yeah,
and that kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
It's like the way that thing is branded, I don't even know how to get away from it yet. I've been home 11 years.
Yeah.
If
I remember, you got a 38 number, right?
358.
358. Okay.
358,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll do it. The 8 was in there. I was sitting here trying while you were talking. I'm like, okay, I remember 8 being in there.
358.
Yep.
So you came to the penitentiary. How old were you when you got locked up?
19, man.
19 years old.
Yeah.
You alluded to it a little bit when you said like a 30-second decision led to you being in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about who that 19-year-old was.
Man.
When you got in the penitentiary.
A live wire, man. I had been in and out since I was 12 years old. Youth home, detention centers. Both my parents had spent time in prison. Both of them had gotten clean, but eventually went back into the drug game. My dad, crack and heroin. My mom was with the pills and heroin. So you can imagine dysfunctional home life. Caught my first dope case at 16. Got set up by a confidential informant with the narcotics unit. And 16 got popped, and then obviously did a stint in the juvenile system. Was in and out of everything, and out of the youth home, stealing cars, that whole deal. And then eventually 15, 16 years old, selling dope. I mean, I always had that hustle was in me. I remember in 6th grade, me and my brother started our own lawn care business, and then we talked the Muskegon Chronicle into letting us get 2 paper routes, because usually they'll give you 1 out for a kid. But my brother had to have been probably 13. I was 11, so you had to be 12. So I was 11, so they're like, well, we can't give it to your brother. He said, well, he's going to help me do this, would you please? And I still remember the guy's name, Al Lloyd. He was like, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll let you guys. So he gave us, it was 4 city blocks downtown Muskegon.
Okay.
Back in Sanford, 5th Street, and Jefferson. And so he gave us that extra route, and we did it. And I remember we stenciled like these, we got a piece of paper, and we got our stencil out and put lawn care, check this box. It's all handwritten, check this box if you want your grass cut.
And that's marketing.
You want your leaves delivered. So we didn't. And I remember one Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, you had to get up early and get the newspaper right. We had to go get them. And so we put flyers in each of the newspapers, and then went and dropped them off. And next thing you know, we started getting phone calls. So that, that type of, even in the criminal world, everybody used to like putting silver caps on their bikes, right? They take them off of cars. Mm-hmm. I remember we used to go up to Hackley Hospital to the parking lot. We'd steal them off cars. I'd sell 4 for $1. Yeah, $1 a piece, man. For guys who didn't have them. Reflectors were always a big thing in guys' wheel. Man, we'd be, I'd go in there.
That's some good hustling. That's some good 80s, 90s hustling.
Yeah.
Them young kids don't know about that type of hustling, man.
It was just like, that had always been, a part of my thing. And then obviously the dope game came. I had to learn that, I got, that was, took me a minute to get the hang of it. Though it was more so trying to get the hang of it from the, excuse my language if this is offensive, from the crackheads, right? Pulling up to the car, you like, what you want? The Joker hit your hand.
I was just going to say, that's kind of how the game was learned, right? You learn it from the dope fiends.
Or come in and do the switcheroo.
For sure.
Pull a peanut out. No, man, that ain't no good. And then try to walk off real fast. So, but once I got the hang of it, and then, to my own demise, ultimately, it, took me farther than I wanted to go, because I ended up in the joint. Yeah. So I'm not glorifying. I'm just reminiscing with these years on how I got to where I got to. Yeah, but I had to act for it, in time. Hence I got White Boy Nate. Back in the 90s, I was the only white guy selling crack in Muskegon and Muskegon Heights.
Yeah.
young cats who I've never met before in the county jail. They still talk about White Boy Nate and stories of back then. And
it's crazy. As I'm listening, I'm still damn near in awe right now.
Yeah.
And I know you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't walk the yard. I know who you are and how
Yeah.
you. But as I'm listening, like I don't remember no White Boy Nates from my hood.
Yeah.
So like, that
This is.
a-
I mean, it is,
an
and I don't mean to
anomaly.
toot my own horn, but it'll go down in history in Muskegon as the only white dude who rotated at that level. And I'm not talking about this like I was.
couple
I had
rocks
to
here and
tag along with these cats. No, I was leading the charge. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I mean, it wasn't when cats from the Heights. It didn't matter where you was from. You saw us. You knew exactly where we were from.
Yeah,
It's the
for
Mason boys right there.
Yeah, for
White
sure.
Boy Nate. And I was good at basketball. I could scrap, and I had no problem throwing something ahead. And cats on the streets knew it. And my hustle game was on point.
solid, yeah.
So
So you
cats,
got the
you
respect.
had to give respect to where
gotta give
respect
respect where
was,
you go, yeah.
and being the only white kid in the neighborhood, I had the pressure that I had to prove myself. So, and hence, I developed scrapping. And you can ask cats in the penitentiary today, White Boy Nate, guarantee they'll have a story, about something that I did. And, ultimately that mindset that hurt, growing up, I was molested when I was younger. And it just, had, that anger, in and out of, the group homes and institutions. And then, the anger, the dysfunctionality in the household. And it just, at 17, my best friend, there was a neighborhood rivals here in Muskegon I was from the Mason end. There were some guys from another neighborhood who we rival with from Wood Street. We had got to beefing, and one night in October of '98, they murdered him right in front of me. And so, and I mean that literally, not down. We were running from them because they pulled up. It was a drive-by. They pulled up. Him and I are running shoulder to shoulder, and as we're diving on the ground, the bullet hit him in his left butt cheek, and it traveled through his insides, collapsed his lungs, and came out the side of his esophagus. And we laid on the ground while they finished shooting, and he died probably 15 seconds after. He gasped for some air and was going. And that, that just added more to it.
Yeah.
And literally about a year, 12, 13 months after that, my brother, who we're 20 months apart, we get
Close.
whoopings together, that kind of a brother. And they found him dead at Indiana University from a drug overdose. You know what I mean?
Damn.
So then that just added to it. And then obviously that influenced my decision making. And so you just get to a place where, that old I don't care type of
There was no
mentality.
outlet for any of this pressure that you were carrying as an 18, 16,
Right.
17, 18-year-old.
And my only frame of reference was the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and the guys that we all grew up together and, fighting and taking my anger and stuff out on these guys from another neighborhood.
yeah.
Something I don't even own, but we buy the lie and we think that that's who we are, because the only thing it's doing is, and this is what can be so dangerous about it and why having healthy nucleus households are so important and dads being involved,
Yes, sir.
is because the thing that all of us were looking for was just the sense of belonging.
Yes, sir.
And the sense of belonging should be being met in the household, right?
household.
So then when, like my identity, I'm a Johnson. Like my dad should have been speaking that over me. Like, look, son, you're Johnson. We don't behave this way. This is what, but also leading as example. Like this is how you're supposed to live, right? And I, and I should have been, when kids wanted to, go do this other stuff, I said, man, I'm part of the Johnson tribe. I belong
We don't
there.
do the-
And that's more powerful than this, right? So then when you think about with kids, and I mean, I remember growing up, some of the older folks would say, man, I don't understand why these young kids keep running out to the streets and want to hang out with these kids. And as I thought about this, it kept coming back to the sense of belonging. It's not that these young kids are running to something as opposed to the running from something that's not being met in the household.
Talk.
See, if the sense of belonging is being met in the household,
They don't
guess
have to go
what?
find
It decreases this attraction of wanting to go out into the streets and find the sense of belonging in a gang, a neighborhood clique, a group of dudes who represent something. Man, I remember being on the streets especially when guys used to talk about White Boy Nate. Man, I lived up to the hype, and it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
It felt when we stepped into a place and they knew I would go to the Mason Boys. Man, that felt good. And if we bumped heads with someone, I knew, man, I got 10 pit bulls sitting by me. We ready to rock out, right? And but that felt good. But that was the sense of belonging that was being met, but it was a counterfeit version of the real thing.
So I was thinking that as you were speaking, and I'm like, at the time, it feels good.
Oh, 100%.
And we to the point where we actually believe that that's who we are.
Oh yeah, no doubt, yeah.
But at some point, the real you
yeah.
has to come through that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I identify with when I was running the streets, my name don't got an O in it.
Yeah.
I wore box braids in 93, 94.
Oh yeah.
When Minister Society came out.
Right.
So when we moved to Lansing, they started calling me O-Dog by that. Yeah. But when it clicked in my head, and my mom likes to say, I don't know if she likes to say, but she often says, that movie is where she felt like she lost me. Because from that movie, I became that character, right? Yeah. And as you were talking, I was just thinking back to when they started identifying me as O-Dog, I played right into it because not only did it give me another sense of confidence, but it also made me feel like I was welcome. I was belong. I got a nickname over here with the crew.
Part of my identity. We take it on as part of our identity. Yeah.
So I became that and embodied it to the point where you couldn't differentiate the real me from that character that I was playing. Yeah. Which brings me, I guess, to my next point, and it'll run into a couple points. What was like your pivot moment? Well, what was that thing? You got your time back. They gave, and that reduced how much time you had to do by a lot. Yeah. But I know for a fact that you having a sooner out date that wasn't the thing that just said,
no,
I'm straight. So
it played somewhat of a role in it that it gave me enough hope to look in a different direction.
Okay.
I remember, I still remember the time when the CO, I was in 6 Block, St. Louis. CO came up and said, Johnson, come to the bubble. And I come up there and said, you got an attorney visit tomorrow. So he said, you got to go up to the control, so you need to sign this so that there's proof that we notified you about this. I said, all right, signed it. Next day I go up and see Sherry Guess. She was an attorney with Sato, with the State Appellate Defender's Office. And I go up and see her, and my first question when I come in was like, you going to give me some time off, or, what are you up here to see me for? Because I pled no contest.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking, I
remember that.
I signed the appeal thing. You do at sentencing. I just did it, here, you want to say? I'm like, you never know what may happen, you know what I mean? They might have screwed up something, and then,
But they do.
They do,
That's a fact, they do.
That's true. So I'm like, so I signed it, and then, but I expected really nothing to come of it, right? And then she said she was coming up to see me. And so she comes up, she was like, well, I went over your case, and I found there was a technicality here. I'm like, what do you mean a technicality? She's like, it's the order of sentencing. I'm like, okay, what? And I'm ignorant to the law, so what she's talking is like Chinese, but it sounds good, so I'm just nodding my head with her, right? So she's like, the consecutive sentencing clause is attached to your drug offense, or to the drug offense. I said, yeah. She said, well, the instructions on the consecutive sentencing clause says that the sentence that has the consecutive sentencing clause attached to it must be the last sentence imposed upon you. She said, but the judge sentenced you on the dope case first and then the armed robbery. Therefore, he created an invalid sentence. So I'm like, and I got sentenced months apart from, for the dope case. They ran through the courts because I had different judges, and so one went quicker than the other. But I got
you. So it wasn't like one appearance and you got sentenced. All right, this is the dope case, and now I'm going to sentence you on.
Right. So
these were completely different instances.
Totally different.
Okay.
June of 2001, I get sentenced on the dope case, and then I don't get sentenced on the armed robbery till like November.
Okay. Gotcha.
So she's like, there's this. She said we could go back. She said there's no guarantee because you pled no contest and they accepted it as a guilty plea. So she said technically he don't have to do anything, but it's worth an opportunity. We can file a motion, go in for oral arguments, and let's see where he lands at. I'm like, bet, let's do it, man. So we go back in. It was months later, but as soon as I left that attorney's office, I ain't never wanted God in my life till. I'm like, God, please, man, you get this 5 years off me. I promise I'll never do this. I'll quit smoking.
Did you do
I'll
it?
go to church and do what? Do what I'm
All
saying?
of that, yeah.
Yeah, eventually, yeah, but not right away. You know,
Okay.
I probably had a cigarette in my mouth. You know, I used to gamble on the basketball course. I'd gamble for Newport. So you remember they used to sell the Newports at Marlboro?
Yes, sir.
But the rest of it was like 4 aces or
Yes, sir. Or,
buglers or something, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'd come out and smoke. Man, I promise I'll stop everything. And at the time it was just I just wanted to get out.
Mm-hmm.
But over the course of that next year, man, I began to have thoughts come in my mind that I'd never, like, what are you gonna do when you get out?
Yeah.
What if your daughter saw you right now? Would she be ashamed to say that you're her dad, or would she be proud to say that you're dad? I'm like, and them thoughts was like I had never thought like that, or even considered it. So I knew somewhere deep inside that I wasn't the author of those thoughts. And I'm like, man, that's got to be something. Like, why am I thinking about this? And so, one of the things before I went back to sentencing, I was like, before the judge did, I'm like, I'll even go to church and start reading my Bible. And after the sentencing happened, I ended up signing up going to the chapel. I'm like, man, I might get another court date. They may re-sentence me, and this time it'd stick, right? So I get over there, and I didn't. It wasn't right away. I took time. Was reading my Bible, and I didn't, because I saw so many guys in there. Were saying the handshake wasn't matching the smile, and I'm like, I don't want to be any parts of that. And so it was a slow process as I came to that place, but then eventually, when I knew, I said, this is what I'm doing with the rest of my life. It wasn't just a decision to, just hurry up and just make it because I wanted to get out. It wasn't that type of thing. I really thought through it and really counted the cost of what I wanted to do. And, I gave my life to the Lord during that time. And, I spent the next 10 years inside. I wasn't perfect. I had to mature in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And, I set my sail to go in the direction of renewing my mind and living a life of surrender over to the Lord. And I did it. I came home, and then, just to fast forward on that tip, came home. Everyone knows me as starting Fresh Coast Alliance, starting the Reentry United Conference, the national convening, and then Next Chapter Solutions. But the first thing I ever started was Kingdom Life Church, which is where we're at now.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And half my staff here, pastors, are all formerly incarcerated guys.
Okay.
Right? I run we have a discipleship house, where guys, everyone who's in the house has been imprisoned, and they've given their lives to the Lord. So discipleship, Mike, my guy here, he's the housing director for that. And so we do that. And I mean, we have half of our churches formerly incarcerated guys. My security team, we have about 20-something guys on security, and they almost like 85% of all the guys on the security team are formerly incarcerated dudes because they know how to read people.
Facts.
Right? I trained them. You know what I mean? I didn't. I had somebody come in and train them, but
right.
We constantly reiterate these principles. They know how to read people.
Yeah.
And they know how to go into they do a walkthrough of the building because of the people that we serve and go through. They know to look up under the plunger, make sure ain't no crack pipes, nothing up under there, because we found them under there before. But they do it any place where the kids are at. They get earpieces, walkie-talkies.
Man.
And we got a large facility here. So
yes,
we gotta,
you do.
So we got to make sure that we, all the perimeters, right after worship, they get the cue to lock the whole place down. All the doors are locked. They on post, like being in the penitentiary.
This is, I did
but
not realize
most people
that.
don't know that I got a whole staff I mean, we got close to 15 people on staff, but that was my first thing that I launched after coming home.
And for the record, y'all don't get to see like the building, but this is a beautiful building.
Yeah.
It's right off Apple Street. It's a nice sized church. It's not it ain't a mega church, right? We ain't.
Right.
But it is a nice sized building. It is definitely community welcoming, right off the curb and inside, like just this studio room where we're doing this podcast at. Shout out to Mike behind the boards for the way that he's handling this. Yeah. This ain't my level of podcasting right here. Yeah. I be with the iPhone and a tablet or something. This is really, really dope. And I had no idea this was the beginning.
So this is where it all launched at.
Okay.
So there's a whole 4-block campus here. Okay. We got, the Reentry Fresh Coast Alliance is up there in the former school building.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all started in there.
Okay.
And I mean, that building was running 7 days a week. Like we were busting out of the seams. Okay. And then the opportunity came to buy this facility, which is 2 city blocks. This church takes up 2 city blocks. And the opportunity came up to buy this. So we bought that so the Kingdom Life could move up here. Fresh Coast could take over that because Fresh Coast was growing too.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have a counseling practice over here on the corner where we have alcohol chemical abuse consultants. So we have our own counseling, therapy practice and counseling. And then there's homes right here across the street and in the neighborhood. So everything's within walking distance for reentry, recovery, and so we, one of the things is, we created a movement here.
You did.
So it's, and you can feel it when people come. It's like, it's not just one person. There's a whole movement of stuff happening all throughout the week, right?
So ecosystem.
Yeah. It is. It's. I mean, we got an awesome team here. Mike, my guy in the back, not to put him on blast, but he did time in the penitentiary. More than half the people that are on the team that are leading are formerly incarcerated because there's so much creativity in the penitentiary that we usually don't get these opportunities.
So we're about to get there.
All right, let's get to the.
I do want to cover a little bit more about your time inside because I believe it's relevant to who you are now.
Yeah.
But that's definitely my next step is into that because in your transition of like becoming this person, sticking to that promise that you made to God.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it is I remember making a similar promise when I was running. And you talking about it just now made me say, well, dang, I think maybe those promises actually do. At the time, I was saying, that was just a fruitless promise. But wait a minute now, as we look 25 years later at the person that I am now, same thing at you, though. What do you feel like was your greatest lesson or your greatest challenge in that time, especially after you decided that you didn't want to stay that person?
I think, there's numerous ones, but I know one, the more that I got acquainted with who God was, the more, let me put it this way so it makes sense, the more that I grew in my understanding of him, the more that I realized that I didn't know.
Okay.
Because I went from it's like folks were. Think of it like this: children have imaginary friends, adults have imaginary enemies.
Facts.
But what happened in that space, that liminal space between? How did we go from 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds running around thinking that we're Superman and running from the bad guys playing cowboys and Indians to, if someone doesn't text us back quick enough after we had a slight disagreement with them, we automatically think they're mad at us. What happened in between that got us to a place to where is it, I don't know if it's damaged goods or that we've taken a number of blows where now we look and see people totally different than who they are. And I realized I was in that boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I don't want to be, and again, I don't want to say I lost my discernment. I got discernment. I can read right between the eyes of the brow. I can tell when the handshake ain't matching the smile. I totally get that. But you always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially with the people that we work with. And our philosophy here is that if you want world changers, you got to believe in people before they're ready.
Okay.
But not only did I want to possess that, which was developed in prison, I wanted everyone to see that. Where, I mean, history makers is just something that we push here.
Yeah.
Right? And a history maker is someone who is the bridge between what is and what is to come. And everyone was born to change the course of world history and to affect generations to come, right? And so I realized in that moment that those principles, that the more I learned about him, the more that I realized I didn't know about life in general. Because I'm like, man, my best thinking got me here. So think about this in a very immature mindset, thinking this. I'm like, man, my best stuff got me here, man. And I had to be truthful. I'm like, I don't know how to live life. I've never lived it. I was, born and raised on the, in the street life. So that's, paying bills and doing things of responsible nature was not a thing of mine. So, but what I was learning and growing in those moments inside was like, man, especially like reading Proverbs was like, man, this talks about everything from sex to money to living life to, and God's wisdom was just like, man, I got to partner with that because I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I think those principles of the more that I learned about him, the more I realized I didn't know was probably one of the game-changing moments because it not forced me, but I came to the realization that I needed to surrender over to someone who was greater than me. And, and I remember some guys that I knew from the streets was like, man, you gonna do that when you go home? I said, yeah. Hey, have I ever faked it? I don't fake and shake, man. You've never seen me over here try to do this and do that, right? And so I'm like, and I thought through it. You know what I mean? I really like this is going to be a life-altering decision that I'm about to make. And so I surrendered my life over to the Lord, and now looking back 20 years later, the fruit speaks for itself. And it's not because I'm this smart individual. I think I just stay humbled at his feet. And I'm like, and I constantly ask for wisdom, creativity, and I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. And it takes a lot of money to fund this. Like this ain't like at the peak, man. I ain't talking about just running around trying to raise $200,000, $300,000, $500,000. We're talking about over $1 million organization.
Mm-hmm.
That type of stuff would keep you up at nighttime.
For sure.
Right? And it's not easy and then also here was my other challenge was running the organization was like, okay, we're a faith-based organization. There's some grants and some funds out there will say you can't say certain things if you accept our money. That was non-negotiables. Like at the end of the day, I know who butters my bread. I know he could supply anything. And as I stayed fast to that, dude, some of the people that I've gotten phone calls from that I've met, and I'm not talking about just someone who's got some money, but I'm talking about like millionaires. Like, what do you need? And God was faithful the whole time. And so the fact of someone surrendering their life over to the Lord, really trusting him to make something beautiful out of what they potentially destroyed in their own lives. Man, I'm living proof. Can't nobody tell me God ain't real.
Man, I feel you 100%. Dog.
You know
did that, bro.
Even if it's not popular amongst certain groups, it's just like
it just is
can't nobody tell me because I'm living proof. And there's a lot like I'm not on social media posting. I'm like, I mean, if I wanted to, and it's part of I know the Lord. There's favor and God's blessed us. I could get on there and make cats be talking about doing this. I mean, like, I came home, and this ain't to toot my horn, but I came home and made it happen. Okay? I could get on and make it look, I could blow this whole thing because it is dope. Everything going on here.
It is.
And it could be, trying to whatever. I just don't do it. I want to play in my lane. I want to make a difference,
And I understand that you don't do it, but that's also, if I'm just being honest, and to my listeners, like, that is the premise of 17 Winners podcast, because that's a lot of the problem when it comes to formerly incarcerated leadership is we, in our heart of hearts, are just going out here doing the thing that makes us feel like this is what we're supposed to do, the thing that makes us feel like we being solid or standing on the business. I dealt with, like, what is it called when you, like, leave and you feel like you left people behind? I felt like that.
Yeah.
So that's what the origin of the podcast was just that. So we don't publicize what we do.
Yeah.
But it needs to be platformed.
Yeah.
Because if we don't say that we're doing this, it will be glossed over that we're doing this.
Yeah.
It will be erased from history that Nate Johnson was the nucleus behind this energy formulating the way that it did. Yeah, it was, of course, we built it with people and a lot of energy and a lot of things, but, like, a lot of those people were us, formerly incarcerated, who
100%.
would not normally be able to get the credit
Yeah.
for the work being done. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you also spoke to something that is kind of on topic, but a little bit off. It's on topic because it deals with the subject of reentry. But I've been running around having conversations, I guess, about this for a few days now, because I heard somebody say reentry, like their reentry is forever, I think is what I heard. Like, my reentry doesn't have a protracted time period. And I agree that it doesn't have a protracted time period. I actually, and we'll talk about this in a second, but I actually have a presentation for the Reentry United conference to talk about the difference of levels of reentry and how it's not a 3-month or 6-month or, like, type of deal. But as I think about your model with pre-entry and reentry and post-entry, I think, or at least I feel like reentry is only reentry until you are on the level of the average citizen. Does that make sense?
It does, but success is different for each individual. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't take, like, for me, I understand that some of us, not just me, but me, you, and think of guys who are leading initiatives across the state. In our own communities, we're anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
We're standouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be unjust for us to compare someone who just came, like one of the guys we were in group today, to compare them to me and say, this is what success looks like. You have to start these numbers of organizations. You have to do this number of things if you're considered successful. I know some guys over the years that I've worked with, it was a big deal just for them to get a job and stay consistent at it.
Yeah.
And just be dads that are in the mix.
For sure.
And be individuals who could show up. It was a big deal. I'm thinking of a couple stories now for some of these guys just to show up at their children's baseball games. Like, for me, that's a success. That's a win.
100%.
You killing it,
100%.
man, right? In other words, they've transitioned into the post-entry phase, which post-entry is terminology that we would use because we understand it.
Talk about that a little bit more.
To the rest of the world and the community, I'm Nate Johnson. I'm not ex-con, ex-felon, everybody knows me as Nate Johnson now. But because I'm so public with my my time, my past, people always associate that with me. I can't run from it if I wanted to, but I'm cool with it because I understand when they see those of us who have been there stepping out and revealing our scars and wounds, it empowers them not to live in shame and guilt. They're like, well, shoot, these people are doing it. Why can't I? Right? Because there's a freedom in bringing things out into the light. And so success looks different for every individual. So I think you got some people are one talented people. You got some individuals, and this is a biblical principle. Jesus talked about you got one talented, three talents, and five talents, right? And he distributes out to whoever. This person, you may be a five talented individual. That means you could do more that you can run multiple organizations and do multiple things simultaneously, and it's no challenge for you. Then you got this other person, they can only manage one thing, right? But those authentic indicators is, how has the mind changed? How has your habits changed? And not exemplifying any type of habits, unhealthy appetites that would even hint that you would be heading back to your former life, because you've been delivered from that. You've come out of that, and we're heading this way. And then each person has to define what their own success is, because everyone's destiny, like our destiny is not coming to us. We have an assignment. Every single person is graced to do something. Everyone has a destiny, but our destiny is in a place where we go to, and we all get to determine that. Okay, it's not coming to us, but everyone's destiny is going to look a little different. Some guys, it may just be being, man, a legit husband and a dad who's in the mix. That may be, hey, and I'm a champion and celebrate that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of us would. Yeah. And so I think once we get to a place to where reentry, this is how I feel. Pre-entry is from the time you get incarcerated till you're out date.
Okay.
How you choose to steward that pre-entry or doing the bid, whatever you want to call it, your sentence, how you steward this is ultimately going to determine what your reentry experience is going to be like. Once I get out on reentry, it's like a 2-year, you got your time on parole. Some guys, it may take a little longer. But if an individual stewards their pre-entry the right way, the reentry is going to it's not going to be as hard as it would if an individual isn't prepared. Okay? So then once you get out here, if someone's prepared, they understand there's certain things they got to do. I need to, roof over my head, whatever that may look like. If I go into a housing program, it's temporary. I need a job. I need to begin to develop healthy relationships. I need to mend older relationships with family and friends and all that kind of stuff. And, and I could continue on with that list, but I need to do these things. And then there comes a place where I become stable, where I can move back into the community and with my family and play my part.
So that's kind of what I was getting at, right? Is that in that reentry space, before you get to that post-entry, a couple things just came up, but one was, I don't think that there's a time period when you're in that reentry space, but I agree with you that there are some indicators of being past it.
Yeah.
I'm recognizing myself as like maybe nearing the edges of the reentry space now, and I'm saying that because of things like, I think the challenges and barriers for me are the same for any 44-year-old black man, or probably any 44-year-old that makes what I make. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think a lot of my barriers are more heightened because of my criminal history or my time incarcerated. Right. So now I'm feeling like, okay, maybe I'm no longer inside of the reentry. No. At the same time, though, last year was the first time I was able to write my name on a lease and be accepted to rent from a landlord based on my criminal history. Yeah. And I had gone through hell trying to do it for the whole time that I'd been out. Right. So I still felt like I'm still having the same barriers of a person that just got out 6 months ago.
Those collateral consequences.
In spite of the fact that on a whole lot of other levels, I'm not. I don't still experience it, right? So I guess, can you speak to that a little bit and speak to those people who haven't managed the stewarded their pre-entry time, still needing those same barriers removed. And
Yeah.
what do we do with them?
Yeah. So I mean, if it's like, okay, my pre-entry time in prison, I didn't steward it well. I was on the poker table, hitting the yard, playing basketball, trading jokes, all this stuff.
How do you steward? Like, how do you find the lane to steward it well?
For me, I mean, obviously, it went back to my decision to follow the Lord, and then in that ultimately came out of I need to be around different people.
Okay.
And so the people in the yard that I was hanging with, now I still was, I didn't want to act like I was better than people. So guys from Muskegon, I would work out with them, but I made sure it was clear that this is where I'm at now. I ain't with that. And then I had no problem telling them, look, I don't want to talk about all that, right? Because I never been pressed for conversation. I've been in the in-crowd my whole life. So it ain't, I wasn't like, I need these guys to accept me. So I wasn't battling with those kinds of things. So I was like, this is me. And I had no problem walking alone at times. You know what I mean? This is just what it is because there's not people around that I'm of like-minded people with. So I maneuvered in and out, but I've surrounded myself with people who thought the same as I did, right? And that helped. And consistently over the months and years, that began to help shape the way that I thought, right? And then the music I listened to, I got rid of all my rap music, man, and just because I knew, like I remember reading this verse in the Bible. It says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue."
Yes, sir.
And those who eat it will deal with the fruit thereof. In other words, the fruit that's produced from what you put inside you got to deal with it, right?
Yes,
you got to enjoy it or not enjoy it. But so I understood that. So from my talk, you know what I mean? I didn't enter into conversations where it was going to potentially lead to a negative thing. The music I listened to, the books that I read, the people that I put myself around, that all helped me prepare. But it's not that it was easy. It'd been easy just going with the flow, where there's no agenda. We talk about just whatever, right? And just go with the flow of the day. So it was harder doing this, but and I understood it's in that place of resistance is where we actually grow, right? A plane, when it leaves the runway, it has to go against the resistance of the wind before it can transition from the law of gravity to the law of aerodynamics. But unless we face resistance, we're never going to grow. It's what the weight pit is all about, right?
No, that's facts. I just wanted to highlight it because it's important to hear what that stewarding process looks like.
Yes.
Because although mine wasn't the same,
Yeah.
it was. It was about who
And there's
I
different
surrounded
expressions.
myself with.
There's different expressions of that growth period. So, it does. There's not a one pat answer, but the principles are the same. The principles will stay constant
For sure.
in this, right? People, places, things. It's almost cliche, but in reality, that is really real. And it was my outlook on prison. Prison can either become your cemetery or your university. The cell, you could look. I looked at that was my university, right? And so my cell, that could either become my cage, or it could become my chrysalis. Where the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and becomes a butterfly. I chose to look at that as my chrysalis, and it was my university. That way, my approach to everything that I did was filtered through that. I set challenges. I read one book a month. You know what I mean? I read one book a month, and then I obviously I was studying the Bible, and it was all like growth stuff. Like, man, I want to grow, and I became hungry to want to know things, right?
Yes, sir.
And my creativity came in, and then I remember after giving my life to the Lord, it was like, look, man, only thing I gave my life to the Lord. The only thing I knew is I still had my ability to hustle, and I still got my ability to recruit. So it's like, I know I can't slang crack no more. So look, we got to get out here and do something. And that's where this whole thought process of wanting to do reentry came from. But then that was my whole mindset from doing, for pre-entry, renewing my mind was the books I was reading, the music I was listening to, the people I was putting myself around.
Yes,
so when I came home, I hit the ground running. Came home in 13. I mean, literally the same month, I started networking and connecting. 14, did building. 15, I had execution plan. May 2015, I'm getting off parole. July 10th, 2015, I'm getting married. September 19th, 2015, we're starting the church. January 1, 2016, we're launching Fresh Coast. And I executed the plan just the way that I said it. For the end of 13 through all 14, fundraise. Started with $12,000. Took all that $12,000, put on a fundraising banquet. Thought 50 people would show up. 168 people showed up. Raised over $90,000, 6 months worth of capital. 10 years later, it's a $1.2 million organization. But I hustled. I stayed perpendicular. I made sure that I never forgot who buttered my bread. I stayed humbled at his feet, gleaned wisdom, and relied upon him for creativity. And we launched the largest reentry organization in the state of Michigan. And I had people come in from the time that we started it. I would have people come in from all over the state, with no joke, at least once a month, and had people come in from outside of the state to come and see Fresh Coast.
So what do you think about the landscape of reentry in the state of Michigan? Because you just said some important stuff about reentry, and I know we're coming up on time.
Yeah, the landscape. I think we're doing is from a national perspective. We are leading the country in reentry efforts because of the OS program, because of a lot of practitioners, and how well the grassroots and grass tops people work together. That's not going on anywhere else in the country. From places that I've been to, I speak at a number of conferences across the country on reentry, and I haven't seen it to this level here, right? So we do have a lot of growing to go, especially for the nonprofits. I think there's still a lot of learning. I'm not saying that we have it all figured out, but I one of my pet peeves is I really believe the entrepreneurs have to be in the reentry space. I love the social work crowd. They're needed, and it seems like we have more social workers in the reentry space than we do entrepreneurs, but we need the entrepreneurs to come and occupy that space along with the social work, the people who have the social work hearts, so that we can do it
sustainably.
Yes, and then it can be it can reach its optimum potential. It's like Fresh Coast is probably the only reentry nonprofit in the state of Michigan that owns a for-profit business, which is the counseling practice. We can offer a service to our participants, but also it's a for-profit business that generates revenue to send back to create sustainability with the nonprofit. The housing program was set up as a social enterprise. It's self-sustainable.
Yes, sir.
And makes money and can help pay some the housing director's staff. Right? So it's that's what the entrepreneurs bring, because they're creative even in the way that we fundraise. I never put all of our eggs in one basket.
For sure.
Certain things, certain money spouts could stop, and we ain't gonna skip a beat, because then I'm not dependent upon one. You diversify the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
And we're not relying upon grants. We ain't going out just
Chasing
fill this grant. It never was the thing. So that's what entrepreneurs bring.
Facts.
Along with visionary. And then the social workers, they know how to work with the people the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's a couple more things before we get up out of here. We're going to have to do a part 2 because we got a lot more conversation. But one of them is FIAT, formerly incarcerated alignment table, is something that I've been spearheading because I believe that it's important, one, to, of course, platform formerly incarcerated leadership, but also the fact that formerly incarcerated leaders come in many other places and spaces. It's not just in this nonprofit eco center. It's also entrepreneurship. It's also public policy. It's also legislation. You know what I mean? So we're all over the place. And if we can collaborate or find ways to unify work, we can have that much more power. So speaking to that, I just want to hear this point, and then I got one more question for you, and that is, this one is, what are your thoughts on formerly incarcerated leadership and the future of this nonprofit space in Michigan?
I think one of our biggest challenges are, let me preface it with this. Many times our gifting can take us to places our character can't keep us. We have some very talented, gifted individuals that could kill it, but I've seen time and time across the country where individuals' gifting and skill sets could help build and create things, but they don't have the character to keep them there because they lack discipline. That's one thing that we need guys who really have resolved the things on the inside. It's just like, because I see this, and I've had to have these conversations with guys on my team where guys will come home and they're good at something, even on the church side, preaching, or they're good at doing reentry, and they're good at speaking, communicating, and I give them a platform. And then they start finding a bunch of people that are like, man, you did amazing. And they start receiving affirmation from people. And they're starving for affirmation because they never got it from their dad.
Mm-hmm.
They never got it from a mother, a grandpa, an uncle, someone who they admired. And this unhealthy appetite begins to develop for the affirmation, because now they found something that they were good at. The affirmation's coming. But now I begin to perform for the affirmation. I lose sight of why I'm here. Mm-hmm. I lose sight that I'm here to change the course of world history. It's not all about me, but I'm not here to serve, to be served, but I'm here to serve.
Yes,
and
sir.
whenever that shifts and I get to this place to where I'm doing things for affirmation, we can get off track quickly. Now, I'm saying that to say this because that will affect formerly incarcerated people in positions of authority, because we don't know how to steward authority. And when I say us, I'm saying all formerly incarcerated. Not every single one, but we have stuff in our camp that we have to address. I hear you'll get people who've never been to prison. They'll say certain things about formerly incarcerated people. And there's been times where I'm like, hey, how are you going to say this? But when I sit back and think, I'm like, you know what? They're right. I can't argue with truth. Truth is truth. And we do have some people in our camp that do damage to us.
Facts.
Where they make other people question us because, him or her did something stupid and got to a position of authority, and they misappropriated, or they abused it, or they did something that that tarnished formerly incarcerated people in this space. And I'm of the opinion that, man, we got to heal, and we got to make sure that we're in a position that we can steward relationships, steward authority, steward our influence, because many times the influence could be misused, and we end up creating more harm than good, and we do it all in the name of reentry, because there's certain principles that have to guide every movement if it's going to make an impact.
Yes, sir.
I hope that answered your question, but that's a pet peeve of mine. I really, whatever, when formerly incarcerated people, you hear something in the news, or you're like, what so-and-so, and I'm like, man, they got so much gifting and talent, and they're such an asset to the movement. But those living with situational ethics, your ethics depend on what situation you're in. Get around this group, you go down here. You get around this group, you appear to be up here. It's like, dude, you got to just stay consistent, man. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
I feel it. And my last question, my last thought of the day is, I know I will be getting this dropped in plenty of time before Reentry United, the outside conference on August 14th. So people will see this, people will hear this, people will see the clips, and I'll promote it in that. So I want you to speak to that, but I also want you to take the last couple of minutes and just speak to what you feel like needs to be heard on this platform right now before we get to the part two, because it's going to happen again, y'all. Trust.
Yeah, I think, every single one of you have come home from prison. If you're out now, listen, you have a destiny on the inside of you, and you were made for this moment. You were born for such a time as this. And you have a mission and an assignment. You have an obligation to help clean up what you helped mess up. And before we go into the service of helping other people, not that you have to be perfect, but we at least need to keep this in the back of our mind, is that I can't give away something I don't possess myself. See, if I'm not healed, I can't give healing away. See, if I'm not filled with hope in every situation, I can't give hope away. See, if I'm not filled up and walking in purpose, it's going to be difficult for me to help another one discover theirs if I haven't discovered mine. And again, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but I'm saying we need to sit back and we at least need to acknowledge what isn't there within ourselves, and then be on a mission in a process of discovering that, because it's in that, as we're helping ourselves, we can help other people. And as we're helping to offer healing to others, there's the principle of the reaping and sowing. As we sow it, we'll reap it back in our own lives. But never forget, I don't care what anyone says you. It tells you, I don't care if it's your family, your friends, people in your community, you were born to change the world. You were born to change the world. You were born to change the course of world history for future generations. See, what started this, you think of some of our parents. How did we end up where we ended up? Because some, not all of it, but some of us, our parents set a bad example, or a family member set a bad example, or the atmosphere, environment we were in didn't lean us or point us in the direction that we should go. So we ended up here. We would be foolish to think that if we don't make a change, that same thing couldn't happen with us and our children. And we can't pass this along to our children. My children, if they are not going to the penitentiary. If they do, they're going to have to fight me tooth and nail, and they're going to have to go bang on the prison door to get in there. They're just not going in there. But that's how we're going to change the course of history with this. Like from my generation, my kids and so on, they're not going to prison. It stops with me.
Yes, sir.
Why? I'm not just talking about it. I'm living it. I'm breathing it, and I'm setting it as an example. And we all have that obligation to do. And we need to go back to our communities and let's help clean up what we help mess up. And as far as raising children, we need to raise giant killers that will go out and slay the giant of fear. They'll slay the sense of belonging. We got to make sure our children have it. They're going to slay it in a negative sense so that the kids that are around them, they're actually influencing them with this sense of belonging. If they may not come from a healthy home, guess what? They can come to ours, and they can have that sense of belonging. So listen, man, don't forget it. You were born to change the world, and don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do.
Yes, sir. That being said, man, I appreciate you, my brother, for taking
Absolutely,
the time to be on this podcast. My guy, Mike, I appreciate you for the production in the back. Guru!
Yeah.
And I appreciate y'all for tapping in to another episode of 17 Winners Podcast. This is episode number 42. Make sure you like, subscribe. Please don't mess that up. Please subscribe so that I can continue to grow this podcast, grow the platform, grow the visibility, grow the level of guests, make sure that we can be seen, and always remember, free to real.